Pokemon has always been the journey of a rookie trainer trying to become the very best, and throughout that journey you encounter trainers of wildly different skill levels. In this video, I've taken it upon myself to rank trainers across 7 different levels. We're going to be pulling from the games and anime to see what really differentiates a rookie youngster and his Rattata from a ruthless blonde woman and her land shark thing. Level 1 is reserved for complete beginners, the ones you encounter on Route 1 who probably just caught their first Pokemon yesterday. Bug catchers and youngsters are the most notorious examples of this. Like, these are literal 10-year-olds running around with a single Metapod that only knows Hardened, which I never really got. But now that I think about it, it's probably because they're like 10 years old. Youngsters are in a similar boat. Most of them are walking like 3 Rattatas or a single Pidgey, and their movesets are usually terrible and they don't really understand type matchups at all. Like, these guys send out their grass type against your fire starter and genuinely seem confused when they get destroyed. Last trainers also fit here too. Usually they have like 2 Pokemon max, and their strategy is basically just use tackle until something happens. There's no held items, no status moves, and no actual game plan whatsoever with these trainers. Most of these trainers, or basically like all of them, are just starting out and haven't really learned the fundamentals yet, which makes sense since most of them are just, kids. Level 2 is where we start to see trainers who actually understand the basics, but they still aren't really a threat to anybody with like actual experience. Hikers are a good example. They usually have full teams of rock and ground types, and they understand type advantages to some degree, but their Pokemon are still pretty basic and their movesets aren't really that optimized either. Like, yeah, they have a Graveler, but it's probably just gonna spam some weak move like Rock Throw. Picnickers and campers also fall into this category as well. They're casual trainers who travel around with their Pokemon but aren't really trying to be competitive. Most of them have evolved Pokemon and understand healing items exist, but that's about it. These are the people in the Pokemon world who have Pokemon as companions but aren't necessarily trying to challenge gyms or really do anything that crazy. Speaking of, I think type-specific trainers like sailors and fishermen also fit here. Like, these guys typically use water Pokemon in order to help with their day-to-day activities, and you can find probably more adjacent examples of humans using Pokemon for their daily jobs in this tier as well. So basically, like, the average person in the Pokemon world is probably in this tier. They have Pokemon they can battle if needed, but they're not really dedicating their life to training or anything outside of maybe like using Pokemon for their job. Level 3 is where we get to the real trainers. These are people who actively compete and have legitimate strategies in mind when building their teams. Ace trainers are textbook examples of this. These trainers are actively trying to improve, and they have fully evolved Pokemon with decent movesets, and they use held items, and they actually switch Pokemon based on matchups. In the games, these are consistently the hardest regular trainers you face. Your rival usually sits around this level as well, at least in like the early game. Depending on the game you're playing, they range from pretty competent to legitimately challenging, and they have balanced teams with good type coverage, and they're consistently improving throughout your journey. Like Blue in Gen 1 or Hop in Gen 8 are solid examples of trainers who understand team building and type matchups. This is also where you'd find most casual online battlers in the real world. People who understand the fundamentals and have decent teams but aren't necessarily studying matchups or running optimal sets. Level 4 is where we hit gym leaders. Gym leaders are regional authorities on specific types, and they have fully optimized teams within their speciality. And they understand advanced strategies like weather teams, trick room, or hazard stacking. Someone like Volkner or Whitehand actually pose a legitimate threat if you're not prepared. The thing is, a lot of people don't realize about gym leaders is that they intentionally handicap themselves to the level of the trainer they're battling. So even early game gym leaders like Brock or Faulkner can sometimes match up to later gym leaders like Blaine or Price. Frontier Brains also fit into this tier. They're basically like gym leaders, but sometimes they're cranked up a notch. They run gimmick teams that are actually optimized, and they can absolutely destroy unprepared players. Palmer from the Battle Tower is a perfect example of this. His team is a legitimate competitive threat. Another real life example would be high level competitive players who consistently place in tournaments but they haven't like won anything. Level 5 is reserved for Elite 4 members, and at this point we're talking about some of the strongest trainers in the entire Pokemon world. Elite 4 members are masters of their respective types with teams that have perfect coverage for their weaknesses. Someone like Caitlyn or Marshall isn't just using strong Pokemon, they're running sets specifically designed to counter common strategies against their type. These trainers force you to actually think about your approach instead of just swapping between super effective Pokemon. Notably strong trainers like Giovanni, Claire, or Bia could also fit here too, since they're canonically stronger than some Elite 4 members. It really depends on the region, but generally speaking, Elite 4 is stronger than gym leaders. Speaking of Giovanni as well, you can also fit in most evil team leaders into this tier. It kind of varies for them, as someone like Guzma would probably be like level 3, whereas a trainer like Cyrus or N could be even higher than level 5, so it's kind of hard to rank them. Top competitive players who've won regional tournaments also fit into this tier. These are people who can consistently perform at high levels and have actually proven themselves against other elite players. And I think what really separates level 5 from level 4 is consistency, adaptability, and elite 4 members can handle basically any strategy that you throw at them. Level 6 is where we get into league champions, and these are trainers that have basically mastered everything. Cynthia is the poster child for this tier. Her team has perfect coverage, her Garchomp is an absolute monster, and she can sweep entire teams if you're not careful. Champions like Steven, Lance, and Leon all fit here as well. These are trainers with balanced teams that have zero exploitable weaknesses. Champions aren't limited by type restrictions like gym leaders, and they can run whatever they want, and their teams are specifically built to counter common strategies. Most, if not all, champions also do have signature Pokemon which are especially decked out, like Leon's Gigantamax Charizard, Diantha's Mega Gardevoir, Steven's Mega Metagross, and of course Cynthia's Garchomp are obvious examples of this. High-level competitive players who won major tournaments or even world championships fit into this tier as well, so people like Wolfie Click or Aaron Zhang who've actually proven themselves at the highest level of play. Level 7 is reserved for trainers so absurdly strong they basically broke the game. Red is an obvious choice here. The dude sits on top of a mountain with a level 88 Pikachu and a team of fully evolved starters. In the game, he's literally the final boss that represents the absolute peak of what a trainer can achieve. Red is the best representation of you, the player, in the actual game, and that also kind of just gives him plot armor, which is also a step above everybody else. Speaking of plot armor, Ash Ketchum at his peak fits here too. Like, the dude's beaten legendary Pokemon users, won an actual Pokemon League, and has plot armor thicker than a Snorlax. What the fuck? I'm reading the script now and I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what I was thinking when I wrote that, but anyways, it becomes undeniable when we see Ash become the world champion of the Pokemon League. Like, that's probably one of the requirements to fit into this level, though not everybody here has won the world championship. Some other notable candidates include Tobias. This man shows up to the Sinnoh League with a Darkrai and a Latios, and probably had 4 other legendaries that we didn't see, and could probably also fit here too, since he's canonically one of the strongest trainers in Unova, if not like the second strongest, and has that whole chosen one thing going on. Same with Volo, who's running around with a full team plus Giratina. The thing that differentiates level 6 from 7 in my opinion is just feats and capabilities. Normal Pokemon champions are incredible people, and it is almost impossible to become one. But every trainer at level 7 could easily accomplish that task or has done so already, and on top of it, accomplish the feat incomparable to just being a champion, like Ash's world championship status. Alright, I'm not gonna lie, I recorded this entire video in one sitting, and like, it's a lot harder than it looks. Like, I can't even formulate sentences properly. But if you guys enjoyed watching the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and give me some feedback.